we got two brand new MCU trailers today, straight out of D23 Brazil. We got both a Captain America 4 and a Thunderbolts trailer. Gonna break down both of those right here, right now, back to back. Gonna start with Cap because it's out in February, followed by Thunderbolts out in May. If you are new to this page, I do comic book news and comic book reviews, the actual comic books themselves. I love reading comics, and I try to share that knowledge with all of y'all, as well as movie news and movie reviews, and some TV news, etc. So, if you're into pop culture, especially in the world of comic books, hit that subscription bell. We are rapidly approaching 40K, and I'm so excited and so ready to keep growing this page with you. And please hit a like in this video so it grows in the algorithm. And most of all, the most important thing to me, let's have a conversation in the comments below. I want to know what you think about Captain America Brave New World, as well as what you think about Thunderbolts. Alright, without further ado, let's talk about Captain America Brave New World. This trailer was exactly what I've been hoping we would get out of all of the buzzwords we've heard. We keep hearing it's a lot like Winter Soldier, it's an espionage thriller, it harkens back to the 70s. This reminds me of the 70s, of an espionage thriller, of Winter Soldier, but in an interesting new dynamic way. Winter Soldier was early in Marvel. It was phase 2, and it's my favorite hardcore core MCU film. Like, I dance between No Way Home, which is popular to hate, but I really enjoyed, and Winter Soldier. Those are the two that sing to me most, along with Guardians and the first Iron Man. There's certain pillars of Marvel that are always exceptional, and it feels like all the love for Winter Soldier is hardcore informing both Cap and Thunderbolts. But in that era, in phase 2, it was kind of the first dark, gritty, it went against the grain. It was really interesting to have Captain America be looking at government and systems and opposing them, and the fallout of Hydra and what it did to S.H.I.E.L.D. It was a big, big film, and I thought it was handled masterfully. But it definitely was a movie that used Robert Redford as kind of a signal to that era of filmmaking. This, to me, feels like a slight evolution of that. That movie was definitely a Marvel film with lots of espionage elements. This one, from the trailer, feels like a Harrison Ford vehicle, like a film of which to, show off Harrison Ford, but with the Marvel identifier. So kind of the inversion. Like, that one felt like a Marvel movie with some informed choices that felt espionage. This one feels like a Harrison Ford movie that happens to be within the greater Marvel universe. And I'm talking like old school, conspiracy theory era, 70s Harrison Ford. This feels very Manchurian Candidate, feels very much like his old Jack Ryan stuff, and it's really interesting to see even the iconography of that era. But what's really cool to me is that iconography ties into comic books as well in a really unique way. The lines splitting the frame remind me a lot of that paranoid spy thriller, but it also looks like comic panels in its own way. It also shows the divide of both the country, of the opinion of Sam versus Thaddeus Ross, of how they're diametrically opposed. The visual language was so fascinating, all while having this beautiful film grain on it, all while having so much great comic book imagery. Loved seeing the shield and the wings used in conjunction with each other. I loved seeing them used both offensively to, split that car and do all this incredible, obviously, dive bombing and incredible stuff that Falcon's always done, but with the upgrade of the wings, now Captain America can use them offensively, and then the cool defensive use of, that crazy, pile driver, battering ram going through everything, but then using the shield. All of that was incredible. A couple shots of Falcon had me excited. Loved seeing Isaiah. Loved that this opened Isaiah Bradley. That actor stole the show so much in Falcon Winter Soldier. Love to see him get the theatrical treatment. Love that character from the comic books. If you haven't read any of that Captain America stuff, I highly recommend it. It's this beautiful cover image of Captain America, iconography, but with Isaiah Bradley, and he's standing big and proud, and he's the first person they tested the super soldier serum on. And it's a really fascinating story of what America was at that time, and then how that's, not as evolved as we'd hope it would be today, and now reflecting that with Sam Wilson, what Sam Wilson's going through, and Sam trying to understand what happened to Isaiah. And we saw in the first trailer the attack on the president, and that opening scene of this trailer, the immediacy after of well, at least you came, you showed up, what's happening. I love that it's all a big conspiracy. I love that the stakes are so high. I love that they're doing so much with this impact of it affecting the whole country. I don't love that we've seen as much of the Red Hulk as we have. I'm sure that's a necessity to sell tickets. I know how important this movie is to get things on track, but I'm hoping there's some stuff. I mean, we know we have the leader in it. We know I have some more reveals to come, but we've seen a lot of Red Hulk. So I know that's how you sell a movie. And I love how invested Harrison Ford seems is here. Like, the Thaddeus Ross stuff's amazing. I just wish we had a little less exposure to Red Hulk going into it, but it's this current era of trailers. You got to show a lot, and to get people in seats, I get it. If I have a negative, it's that. And if I have a second negative, it's the slight concern that the style of the trailer can't be replicated for a full 2 hours, but man, the trailer itself I loved. Characterization of Thaddeus Ross looks great. The investment and the passion that Harrison Ford has for this character is apparent. He's acting his eyeballs out. Cannot wait to hopefully see everyone on board with Anthony Mackie as Cap. I think I got there throughout the arc of Falcon and Winter Soldier. I love seeing the ascent of Sam Wilson into this heroic figure with the responsibility of Cap. Like, he took on all those responsibilities, and he grew into the wielding the shield, while we saw why Winter Soldier shouldn't. In the comics, yes, he's Captain America for a time, but the way Bucky Barnes is in the current state of the cinematic universe, what he's gone through, he's not the right guy Sam Wilson is. So, in conjunction with the Captain America 4 Brave New World trailer, which gave us so much great imagery, then we got the Thunderbolts trailer, starring the other half of Falcon and Winter Soldier. We got our Winter Soldier, and he is back to being long, lush king, looking majestic, man, looking fantastically Terminator. That scene in the opening, making him full-on Terminator, even with the shotgun flip and all those shots on the motorcycle, that's about as badass as it gets, about as iconic as it gets. And what's really interesting to me is both of these trailers reflect a certain time. The 70s for the Espionage Thriller, and this, again, using a 90s song, the Toadies, I forget the name of the song. It's Do You Want to Die? But like, it's a very iconically 90s song. And their first trailer had the Pixies. Very, very 90s jams. It feels very 90s. And that's really interesting because it's going like gritty and extreme and playing with villains as heroes and a lot of stuff the 90s comics did. So the fact that we're living in an age of nostalgia for the 90s and 90s music being so impactful for the culture right now, just by way of every 30 years that cycle repeats itself, it's interesting that the comic evolution of the 90s is kind of repeating itself in the films, because this Thunderbolts trailer is very 90s, not just in its music, but in its personification of characters, in its sense of humor, in its cheekiness, and overall the trailer works for me. It's a lot longer of a trailer. It's about 4 minutes, and the movie's not out for another 6 months. We're as close to last May as the May it comes out in, but it does seem like they're very intentionally pairing these two films. I'm pretty sure Captain America 4 has a post-credit scene that directly goes into Thunderbolts, maybe even to the point of the end of Captain America 4 Brave New World is the title change for Thunderbolts, which I still think is probably Dark Avengers. And we finally found out, after all these years, ever since Spider-Man, I think Far From Home, who bought Avengers Tower. Contessa Valentina has Avengers Tower, and with, I'm pretty sure, her Dark Avengers inside it. In the first trailer, they said assemble twice. In this trailer, they're in Avengers Tower, and they're dark. I think they're Dark Avengers, but I'm really intrigued by the power dynamic, like the different power structure in this team. A lot of super soldiers. I'm pretty sure Thunderbolt Ross might come to play. They do have a cheeky bit at the end saying the word Thunderbolts, and why they can't use that name isn't revealed. So I'm sure that becomes a story element in this, but it was very intriguing to have a Thunderbolt Ross moment, and then minutes later have a Thunderbolts trailer not feature the Hulk. That might change by the time the movie's actually out. I really dig Red Guardian's humor. I always have. David Harbour's so funny to me. I'm really curious how that plays with Sebastian Stan's stoicness, and with this John Walker who's cracking jokes and who seems to be on the path of righteousness. The dude beheaded someone with a shield, and now we've got him as a anti-hero, maybe becoming good guy. Very intrigued by what these Dark Avengers are going to be. Hoping for some Ghost redemption, hoping for some Taskmaster redemption. Big old fan of Taskmaster. Huge fan of Taskmaster. I liked the Black Widow movie. It's in my top half of Marvel. I'm one of the few people that really enjoyed that experience. I got to see it in theaters. Maybe that's why they didn't play it in theaters and I got to see it, so it was more of an experience. But Black Widow, I dug. It was an espionage movie that I thought worked. I cannot say that Taskmaster was a strength in that film. So I'd love for her to get some redemption, especially with how much I love the character. I really think this era of having next year get a theoretical, this is just me tinfoil hatting, a Dark Avengers film into an Avengers Doomsday, into an Avengers Secret Wars will be a lot more smooth sailing for the Marvel brand, which tends to have those anchor points of Avengers films, and the phases people didn't like didn't have that anchor point. So I could easily see this being kind of that anchor for this film. The actual film looks great. The style of the humor as well as the style of the action, the actual film looks well framed and intense, and I love the Yelena explosion shot. It also feels like a great spy thriller, but it feels more like the first Bourne movie versus Cap feeling like a Manchurian movie. It feels like, it's interesting. I really think it's a sequel. I think it's a 1-2 punch. I think Captain America Brave New World is a part 1 and Thunderbolts is part 2, and it's really interesting that 70s films are kind of what inspired 90s spy films. So it's interesting to have the 70s go into the 90s spy film, music and everything. Really interesting to pair these two trailers together. Really has me intrigued. What do you guys think? Do you think I'm crazy? Do you think it's not going to be Dark Avengers? Are you excited to find out that, the great Valentina has the Dark Avengers Tower, or the Avengers Tower as it currently is? Are you excited to see this team put together? Do you think we have Bucky going fully back to the dark side? Do you think the hair is symbolic like it was in Falcon Winter Soldier, where the cutting kind of felt like his going through therapy and him healing himself? Is the hair back a sign that he's regressed? Did someone say the code? Is he back to being brainwashed? I'm really curious about the Bucky element. I'm sure that's intentional. They made him like the badass highlight of the trailer along with Yelena. I do think Yelena is going to end up leading this team. I do think Yelena is a great next person to be involved in the greater MCU pantheon. Like, we need a Black Widow figure. In this case, a White Widow. I think they're leaning into the White Widow direction. So there's a lot to be said for a dark Captain America in both John Walker and Bucky Barnes, and a Black Widow / White Widow, and having certain tech elements. I'm really curious if this team sticks around and if they're an essential part of, Doomsday or Secret Wars, what they're going to do, who they're going to be, what they're after. Really fun trailer. Loved the music, loved the style, loved the humor, loved the action. And then with Brave New World, loved the style, the bold style of that trailer. And these two as a 1-2 punch. I really think February, 12 weeks later, Thunderbolts, I think it's part 1, part 2, and then like mere weeks after that, we get Fantastic Four, which you remember is an Elseworld, starts out here, multiversally comes into our world, and I think that's very intentional, these 3 in a row. So I'm really curious about this. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Are you excited for Brave New World? Are you excited for Thunderbolts? Are you excited for both? Let's have a conversation in the comments below. Let me know which or both. Let's talk about it. And if you're not subscribed already, hit that subscription bell. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.